All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Subspace Front-End Apps Developer Sync. Today, Leo is going to give us an update on the different front-end apps that he's been working on. So without further ado, Leo, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, actually, I don't have many updates. I have just updates in the relayer front end, as this was the priority. And it's actually working now with the pre-last version from Serge work, actually. I have to update these fixes for the bytes on the parachain blocks. And I think that for all the comments in the Notion actually card are all done, and I started actually today in the morning to make a pull request for the main branch, and I think that maybe we can start from there. I will share my screen actually.
Hey, Leo, before we get into the code, could you just give us a demo and show us how it looks right now?
Yeah, for sure. Let me start the note. I got it shut down actually.
Most of us saw this yesterday when we prepped for the substrate builders, but just wanted to make sure Courtney got to see it too.
Listening, armor, and the relayer. The relayer. And I think that I got it actually started. It's creating the feeds. I think that we have to wait to create feeds. I followed your advice, Nazar, and created a 10 gigabyte plot, and it's farming and creating blocks really fast actually. There is sending feeds, and if I go to the Subspace layer, you start and we got this listen for pending feeds. And the first things it connects to the network and start getting the blocks from the feeds totals query. And for each block I receive it, I update the information. And right now we have 44, 45 blocks, 46, and it's get updated automatically. And the storage amount kilobytes or megabytes also get updated, and it's showing the latest block. If you click the block, it gets you to the, for example, in this case, the Kusama Explorer at this block number. And it also takes you to an Spartan node. Oh, I have a missing target in there. And it actually right now, like we talked yesterday, actually, I checked this, and it's happening for them actually for the metadata version 14, version 14. And I modified this in a local clone of the Polkadot.js, and I realized that actually the event metadata is different, and it doesn't have this method and section values, and that's the reason it's show undefined. And there is an open issue in the Polkadot apps project actually. There is also another guy that realized that this is undefined and reported. So this is actually a Polkadot.js problem, a Polkadot apps problem, and maybe we can solve this and maybe send up a push in there, a commit in there.
On that note,
fix
Leo,
this.
sorry, could you just explain that one more time? So you're saying that no custom events will work in Polkadot.js, or is it, what is it? I guess I'm not clear.
It's actually a different kind of event. The event, it's the event type is different, and it doesn't have what the Polkadot apps is showing in there is the event method and the event section values, and in the metadata version 14 they are not, I think that they are not set it or something, because it happens to every event, even
So
the system events.
So all events are broken now in Polkadot.js?
Yeah, if you
Wow.
run if you run an empty or a substrate with metadata version 14 like clean, it happens anyway.
Is that what they're using in production right now?
Yeah, in production, if you went to metadata version 14, like in here, I am in production actually connected to this local host, and it's
So
happening.
all events are broken for Kusama and the Polkadot network right now?
Yeah,
that's really hard.
I
It's hard.
validated in here. You have listen
So I guess,
to system events, and you get undefined for event section and event method.
just seems like that would break the entire network. Like all the dApps would stop working.
No, everything works fine for Kusama and Polkadot. If you switch to their network, it works fine.
I think it's just a missing type or something like that in the Polkadot apps front end actually, because I was able to read the events in the relayer actually and the extrinsics and the metadata and the data. It's there. What's not in there is the event section, and the event method is like lost. Maybe it's just a custom type or a missing type implementation on the latest Polkadot API package or something like that. I have to check that.
I think let's just wait until those like someone responds in the created issue on GitHub. And good thing that we are not the only ones facing this problem. So I think at some point they will respond and clarify the situation.
It would be nice if you guys just react with thumbs up or like comment on the issue, just to show that someone cares about it when someone from Parity goes to it to check.
Yeah.
Because currently it's just some random guy like created an issue and he's the only one who has this issue from the report. It's just maybe increase awareness. We can also try to post this message on the element in the
yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, that should be our first course of action even, is just posting it there. I know you do that quite a bit, Nazar, and you get pretty fast feedback there. That's that's part of why we're in the program, is to get special access. Okay, so this is basically an open bug that we have right now that we need a ticket for.
Yeah, exactly. So
do we have a ticket for that on the board right now?
Yeah, actually I added as a comment in the Notion relayer board in here. But we can check the board. We can check the board after reviewing this. Going back to the app, to the relayer app actually. like was requested, the chain name, it actually gets you to the network like main page. And like I said before, the block's number and the block hash takes you to the block itself, and this one takes you to the Spartan network block actually that contains this transaction hash. And I added some kind of timers in here that if you don't receive updates over 16 seconds, it gets yellow, and over 2 minutes it gets red, like with some kind of warning. So that's the basic relayer app actually that we have running right now. For I focus it to get this working for tomorrow, and I think that this dashboard, I think that it's working, and it can be used for demos and everything. So I think that the pending part is moving this to a CDN and run a couple of nodes, the farmer and the client in a virtual machine, and expose that RPC to have this like working like for like demos.
On the block size, Leo, we talked about the SJ. Have you been able to fix that yet, or is it just not in this version?
What? In the blocks? What? In here?
The block size, they're showing 15 bytes for all of the pair chains.
Yeah, Serge, I think that he published it a couple of hours ago, the fix in there.
It was fixed yesterday and merged right now. So yeah, it was on my side.
Okay, got it. So that should be working if we pull down the right, if we connect to the right version.
Yes.
Okay, great.
If it's actually the same parameter, it should work right, like
Great.
instantly. Yeah, but I will check it and have that
Awesome.
tomorrow.
Okay, so I've got a question for you guys, Leo and Serge. Would it be easier if Serge, if Leo just deploys the whole setup as, or would you rather do that for the relayer backend, since Leo's going to deploy the CDN bundle anyways?
Well, let's discuss those questions I raised in the channel before we deploy. And yeah, I might need to make some changes in the code before deployment, and then we can decide.
Okay.
If it works for you.
Okay, we can talk about that after.
Yeah, I have a small comment. So the killed network on Kusama is called killed spirit net.
This one,
not just killed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a minor detail.
Okay. Does Bifrost have a different name on Kusama?
Oh, hey, all other names are all correct.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, and this is looking.
I will. This is actually loading in a config file, so if I edit that, should be reflected like fast.
Cool. This is looking really good, Leo. This is great. I'm really happy with the way this is going.
Yeah, I think that maybe add some fades in here to when it changes, you cannot like instantly realize that it has been updated. For example, in here is 35, 36, but I think that for the future updates.
Table jumps a bit when text changes. Right, left.
Yeah, it's actually moving like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just a minor thing, but yeah, we should just make the rows or the columns constant width.
Actually, that's the real size. I was like zooming out, and with the real size, it doesn't move, I think.
Okay.
It was by the zoom out in the Explorer.
Cool. And Leo, if you can get this to Diana as well, because she needs a screenshot of this version of it. Or once we have the bytes correct, the data correct, she's going to take a screenshot of this and it's going to go on the front page of the website.
Yeah, I actually have a call tomorrow with her to check the CSS, and she told me that she can export all the custom rules, and I can just add that to a Bootstrap or something to have this CSS implemented with her design system actually. So I think that I will be working with her tomorrow in that styles tasks.
Cool. Yeah, and I think we could probably pick some new icons to put up on the top right as well.
Yeah. See.
That's
Yeah.
not a big deal, but just something to think about going forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, this is a Bootstrap, like basic Bootstrap with a custom CSS that I used to work with. So it was just for fast development, and we can replace that in the future.
Cool. Okay. You want to jump into the code? Unless
Yeah.
there's any more questions or comments on the dashboard. All right.
In the code, I think that I have some loss in here. Well, for the code, I have like 3 branches that I tried to work to in terms of features, like has been requested, and I created like the first pull request to add some CSS. I added this because in the beginning I actually had like a lot of files in here, and right now we have just 20, and we are having this discussion about the CSS with Nazar, and I want to clarify that this CSS that I added actually were created in a previous commit where I have all these SAS files and everything, and they are like 100 or 200 files. And this PR, it was really big, and it had a lot of changes and files. And just to avoid that, I just created this pull request with this minified CSS, because they for now it will be not changing, and I want to have this call with Diana to actually get this new CSS and create like some kind of package, and after that create maybe replacing this manually import CSS with an standard CSS for all the projects. Maybe create a package for that. So I don't know what you think about that, because I think that it is working, and for now it's enough in terms of CSS, but it's temporal. I think, like I said, it's temporal actually until we have a package with these standardized styles from the design system that Diana makes.
The problem is not that it is temporary. The problem is that it is a magic bunch of minified CSS. It's not clear where it comes from. It's not clear how would they generate it, how would they modify it. So there should be like instructions, or if you have some SAS files from which is generated, then commit those files and have instructions how you can build it. Otherwise, if it's basically impossible to maintain, we have something, but we have no way to modify it.
Yeah, I have these SAS files and everything, and like I said, I just remove it to make this peer like more cleaner. But if
it
we
doesn't make sense without it.
Yeah, after your review, I realized that I should just send this pull request with the SAS files. So basically, I just added this CSS. I will re-add these SAS files and the instructions to build this minified actually CSS. So it doesn't have much changes than the importing here in the index TSX. I have fixed this allow JS to false, like Serge
I think
told
in
me.
most cases it should be just removed because it's false by default, so it doesn't make sense to have.
It's default by default. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will consider that. And I have these logos actually for every chain. This is our logo in SVG actually, and in here we have this public index where I actually updated some titles and the metadata and imported the bootstrap files. And in here I have moved these dependencies to depth dependencies because they were types actually, and added this will to git ignore. And like I said, I had these other branches where I just tried to split the changes in terms of features. So in here, I basically added some context files, and this is actually all related to the Polkadot API, and we have this context to get and connect a provider to different kind of APIs. And we have this system context where you get information for the system module, and we have this health context where we get the information for the header and the connected status, the last block, and everything. And this Subspace context that is used to actually subscribe to blogs and get the extrinsics and the events. And if I can compare this, actually, I was waiting to close this request, and after that, I was going to actually compare this to the AP context feature. And in here we have these context providers in the main file to wrap the main layout and have the main layout access with all these contexts. I don't know if you know a better way to do this in terms of provider and passing the provider object to the context, but it actually works and doesn't open like duplicated connection or anything. This is the health context file that is actually a class with some functions to get the status of the chain. In this case, just the last block, and if the node is syncing, and I exported this in a health variable to get this in the header information. After that, I have this subspace context that it contains the method to connect to the API premise through the provider passed in the context, and we have this system context with several information about the chain itself, the connected node itself, the version that is shown in the header, and a couple of other information that is shown in the app actually. And as you can see, it has these methods to update and subscribe to the latest status of the chain. And finally, I have this in an index files to export all this context in just one place. And a couple of interfaces where I define all the provider props and the types for the API for the context. So all these types are related for the context module. And finally, I think that I have a couple of utils in here. In this case, this is a util to monitor the provider status. I was logging in there in a previous version, so I was using that. And these custom files for the custom types, but I think that I will remove it because with the metadata version 14, I think that almost all these types are like automatically included. And I actually added this layout to a layout folder. I moved this to a layout folder actually, in case that in the future we have several layouts or the apps grows, we can like just add layouts in the layouts files and have a row there maybe or something like that. And this is the context branch actually, and all the UI.
Leo, let's just
Yeah.
pause for a second. Any questions or comments on any of that branch? Nazar, Serge? Okay. I'm just curious, Leo, looking at that. It seems like there might be some generic logic in here for any DApp built on Subspace that we might want to eventually parse out into like a Subspace JS DApp template that you could then use as like a base layer for something like the relayer. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of like reuse code between different projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, I think that we can like package all these context files in a package and use it from there because it's pretty generic.
Okay, just something to think about going forward. I don't want to do all that right now for this app, but in the future, if we have like a Hello World Subspace DApp, we might be able to extract this out into a template.
Yeah, I will consider that. And well, any question? No. Finally, I have this. After working with that context, I added this dashboard, and in here we have all the header, the footer, and all the components. So I work it basically in the component folder in here. I have removed, like I said before, the SAS compilers. I will add it in a next commit in the CSS branch. But I basically created this footer where you can see this text, and I have added and edited actually this header with all the information that we can see. This files contains all the blocks that were put in the UI. So you can see here that, sorry, this is the header actually. And we have the total storage here. We have the chains that are the chains count actually that are available. This is loaded from a config file. It's a JSON object that contains all the default chain information in an array. So I think that's we can find a way in the future to like we discussed before to add this dynamically. But for now, I have this config file with all the parsing information like in here actually in config available parsings. Basically, I have the name, the logo, the par ID, and the feed ID to have a map with the events and be able
Why
to
it's
print this.
-1?
Oh, because I wasn't counting the Kusama actually. So the file contains 11 fields. but the
Yeah,
parachutes are just 10.
Yeah, let's fix that since we're counting chains. And eventually we're going to add Polkadot and all those chains in as well, and maybe even other chains, like Ethereum into this. So yeah, let's just make sure that we're counting everything.
Okay. And after that, I have this byte with the total storage. This information came from the query that I made for that Serge implemented. This total query where you send the feed ID and you have the accumulated storage in the chain. And the total amount of block archived, it's the information came from the same query, and I just passed as a props to the header. And finally, I have this version that it came from the context, from the health context, actually, from the system context. And you have the node version in a string file, in a string variable, actually. And after that, we have the snapbar. That is the main navbar that show it like first navbar. And it contains just the logo for Subspace and the status that is connected to the node or is actually connecting. And I have this parachain row, is the row that we can see in the table actually. And in here, we are just receiving as a props all the chains props, all the parachain props. And I am just printing this in the UI in like the first header, and the next section is the count. The first section is the name with the logo. The second section is the last update time. Actually, I updated this to this time ago format. In here, there is a mini logic. I have a count for the last update. Is the last update was received like 16 seconds ago. It's changed the color of the badges in the status for this row. This is the main when the upload it's loading, it's listening for pending feeds. It's showed this section, and this showed the last block height, and this showed the last block hash, and the subspace hash actually also is showed in here. And these files actually contains like the main logic for subscribing the blocks and getting the feeds and mapping the extrinsics to the events. And I think that it's actually everything is actually in here in the subscription for the blocks for the new heads. I am not using so many custom types because I was trying to do this fast and having this working as soon as possible, and I have to make some kind of refactors in here. But basically, I am subscribing to every new block, and getting this block, I get the extrinsics for this block. And in the extrinsic, I get the feed ID. And if the feed ID is actually 0, I am receiving like the full block because it's the Kusama feed, and it contains like these big blocks, these full blocks with a bigger size, and if it's bigger than 0, I am treating this in a different way because I was receiving these 15 kilobyte blocks. So this maybe will be changed with the last Serge commit actually, because will be probably the same format, and I will not need to do this validation for or differentiation for Kusama and another parachains. And basically, I created this in the last section. Every time I get a block, I requery the totals for every chain ID, and I create like some kind of counter, and I reset the storage amount and the storage blocks in the UI. And yeah, I think that's it, because in here we have this parachains config file that I mentioned before, where I have like the minimal information to show in the UI. For Kusama, for every parachain, I have these basics, these basic files with this basic information to not show it like empty and everything. And I have this web to make the links, and this explorer like hard coded in here to actually append the last block number and the last block hash, and have a way to get the user in the Polka.js apps with the last block received for this parachain. And I have these parachain props where I have this like the same in here, and all this information is what we are receiving from the feed, and the last update, the last block height, the block size, and the status. And finally, I have this main layout updated. I removed this sample file, and I actually created this main layout with the navbar, the parachain table, and the footer. Yeah, I think that's all for now.
Awesome. That's a great overview, Leo. That's exactly how these should go. Thank you for going through it like that. Any questions from the audience on the code on this last section? Okay.
Looks good to me.
Great. Okay. Any other updates on your side, Leo, before we move to the board for this project?
No, for this project, actually no, because I have this pending task to get the last pixel commit by Serge, and after that I will be sending another pull request with that changes. And no, I think that's all for this.
Okay. Can you switch over to the board, please?
To the board. This is the board for the relayer and the version 1 of the UI.
So do all three of those PRs fall under this version 1?
Sorry?
Do all three of those PRs that you just reviewed, or at least the ones that you're about to submit, do those fall under this version 1 task?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think you're going to have all those submitted today, or are you going to submit them one by one as they're approved?
Yeah, I wanted to close the first one, but I can create because they are like in a sequence, so there should not be a problem to merge this. And actually, okay, in here are the first requests, so all this is implemented, and I have pending these several tasks in here. Check the block size. I have to add a linter and maybe add some tests and push this in the future. But I want to just close this to have
let's collect all those tasks individually into a backlog. And so we can have a little bit more granularity on these tickets, and then we can just close this one out, because I feel like we're definitely at a version 1 now. All the rest of that is nice to have, but we don't want to forget it by any means. So yeah, I don't think you need to delete the comment. I'm just saying we just need to. It's probably good to keep it in there just for
Don't
record.
worry, I will add it.
Okay. Nazar, would you prefer all three of those PRs just get submitted right now, or should we review them one by one?
I think they are based on one another, so we can just submit them right away against the corresponding branch, and we can review them separately. But we can
Okay.
merge them like in
Yeah.
proper order eventually.
Yeah, let's do that and try to get that closed out today, so that we can
Okay.
have this ready for the demo tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. What other tickets do we have right now on Relayer?
For the front end, just this one. There is
Okay.
no
Oh, this is the
other-
combined board. Got it. Okay, so that was it for the front end.
So I will just move it to in review, and
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that all the other tickets are for the feature. I think. Yeah.
Leo,
Uh-huh.
if you go to the top of the board where it says all tickets, select front end only. Relayer front end.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Okay. Deployment over. Is that the deploy to CDN?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's make that high priority or up above the other one in terms of yeah, that's the next one we want to work on.
Okay.
A few comments I had from let's add a top level README to the Relayer app. Right now it has a bare, there's like nothing on the README. So let's add a very simple README which says like, hey, this is a, you know, one paragraph on what it does. This is a front end for this project, link to the other project, or link to the wherever the code is for the Relayer backend within our master branch or within our mono repo. Now that's a separate Node app, or is that inside the mono repo? I forgot.
Courtney added this.
It's not.
Thanks.
It's not. Okay. Anyways, yeah, so let's just include like, yeah, this is, you know, what this is, what it's built with. So this is like a React app, and just a little bit of overview. So when somebody comes in and looks at it, they kind of have a clue what it is. And just in general, anytime we have a repo on GitHub, we should have a top level README that it doesn't have to be like perfect, but just give some overview of the stuff.
Yeah, I will add it in the last branch actually.
Cool.
And the instruction to build the CSS and the app, how to run the app and everything.
Okay, great. And I think at that point, once we have these last fixes that we discussed, we have the README, we have it deployed. I think we can freeze this project for a little while, the dashboard itself, and move on to something else. And we just need to capture. Actually, let's create another ticket just to capture all of the outstanding tasks that we want to put into the backlog for the next stage, and get those added. Leo, if you want to perhaps work with Courtney on that, but just let's make sure that when we come back to this, because I think it's going to be maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, we'll just have to see. We're going to come back to this, and I'd like to, you know, have an idea of what we need to do next versus just trying to have to remember.
Yeah.
Did you want just one ticket to house them all, or did you want Leo to create them all as separate tickets in the no status column?
I think they should all be separate tickets, and we should add a backlog column.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on the Relayer front end? Okay. There's also a or do you want to talk about Subspace JS next, Leo? I thought there was like an open PR for that right now.
Yeah, I haven't checked that. Actually, I was just working in the Relayer app, and I I was thinking in closing this and just moving to the Subspace app because it was the next priority we talk about.
I'm muted, sorry. I feel like I've asked this a couple times, but I'm still not clear on what Subspace JS is giving us if we already have, I thought it was giving us events before, but now we have, like with version 14, don't we have custom events? Or I've said we don't need to have custom types anymore. So what is it that, like, what functionality is Subspace JS giving us right now, or where is it actually being used in any of our existing projects? Or is it just something that we're getting ready for whenever we have like a developer SDK?
Oh, the idea of having this Subspace JS, it was that have a package with all these custom types in terms of TypeScript types or TypeScript classes. So you were able to manage these custom types in a TypeScript way, right? But actually, right now, with the last branch, with the last commits, I have tried it like with no declaration of n types, and it works anyway. Just using this metadata version 14 and the last Polka.js, library. So what for now the Subspace.js can do for us is just extending the APIs with a couple of methods that are in there, but I don't know if those methods will be used like soon. So
I think the problem is that it can request metadata and decode data, but it doesn't inject any like properties and methods on actual types provided. So you don't know, like, enough to complete an ID, you don't know like what is available. They're like automatically inserted. So if you have Subspace JS, which can actually expose some nicer, more strict APIs where you can like call a put and you have a clear interface of what you need to specify to make a put request, and you make a get request and you clearly have a type what is returned. Because currently, like, Polka.js will like inject all of those things, but from TypeScript point of view, it's just any. It can be there, it can not be there, you just don't know. It's not a great developer experience. So I think the primary benefit would be to inject all of those things properly. So I can actually like type dot and you will see autocomplete everything that is available in Subspace actually.
Yeah, without that, you have to work like with any kind of types, and it gets like a mess in the long term, I think. So like Nazar said, it's allow you to have these interfaces like type it and work with the objects itself.
Okay. What I'd like to do with Subspace JS is freeze development there for now and ignore the open PRs that we have, and wait until we're at the offsite. And I think we need to have a bigger discussion about what we want this API to look like and how it fits into the bigger picture. And that's going to be something that will be a priority maybe in the weeks following the offsite of getting version 1 of this Subspace JS, like put get API working. But I think in the meantime, we're a little bit spinning our wheels until we have a better idea of what it is we're actually looking for.
Okay. So the next priority should be updating the Polka.apps branch.
Yeah. Before we switch to that, does that make sense to everybody? Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys have any comments there? Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about Polka.js. And if you can just outline for us kind of what the next steps are there, Leo, and then we can switch gears and talk about a bigger picture and where that fits in.
Yeah, I will change the board, and we are talking about Polka.apps, and these are the pending tasks that are right now. but I think that the network is stopped working. We just have the last block in the front end.
Do we still have this one PR in review?
Which one? Sorry.
There's a ticket that shows in review. Is that for Subspace? Oh, that's Subspace JS.
Yeah, it's Subspace JS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So we're tracking both. Oh, right. Yeah, we've got both those on here. Okay. So there's nothing in review right now for Polkadot apps. We just got stuff that's not started.
No.
Okay. Okay.
I think that the main things that I should work is the block author that is not showing, and the era, the circle that shows the era timing and the era duration. And update the logo with the last Diana logo, and enable this continuous integration to GitHub Actions in our fork.
So Nazar has been working on Subspace V1, and it basically is working. There's some tweaks that we're going to be doing to it over the next week, and hopefully we're going to be able to have the next version of the testnet working before the offsite. We're going to talk about that at the end here a little bit. But the big priority for you, Leo, is going to be getting Polkadot JS working. Or compatible, or ensuring, hopefully it should just work, but we just need to ensure that it is still compatible with this upgrade from Spartan to Subspace Consensus. And along with that, like as many of these other like nice to have tasks as we already have here in the not started section. But the biggest one is just going to be that once we spin up a new Bootstrap node under Subspace Consensus, that we can point the Polkadot.js front end app to that, and it will render, and then we can deploy that PR to parity and get that approved. And I would like to have that PR deployed before we go into the offsite, or sorry, PR submitted before we go into the offsite, hopefully even approved, but I know that's not up to us.
Okay, so basically have a local Polkadot apps working with the last Subspace version, right?
Yeah.
To have it ready for the next upgrade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you foresee any issues with that, Nazar? Any compatibility issues based on changes to the backend?
So far, only nonce field in solution was changed to piece index. That's the only change. But I want to break a lot of stuff. I want to rename Spartan to Subspace and POC to Subspace in many places, and rename the actual node from Spartan testnet to Subspace devnet or whatever. So I would expect lots of things will be just renamed. But that will be like after a few days, I think.
Okay, so let's add a ticket for that to not started at the very top of the not started list as the highest priority.
Are you adding it?
Sorry.
Courtney?
Yeah, I'll take care of it. What would I call this ticket? Sorry.
Upgrade Polkadot. What do we call this?
But this was
Upgrade. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this was the ticket that you were discussing with Leo, right? So have local Polkadot.js apps working with the Subspace upgrade?
Yeah.
Well, that's the first task. I mean, it's basically to upgrade the Polkadot.js Explorer to work with Subspace Consensus. There's subtasks in that which include getting a local node working, getting a PR approved, and then submitting it to internally, getting a PR approved, and then getting that fork or a PR submitted to parity and approved. And then we also have to follow up and get that deployed. I guess that automatically deploys it. We don't have to worry about the CDN part. They take care of that once we have it in their repo. But yeah, we need to get this as we get our testnet live, we need to make sure that we sort of connect the dots and follow all the way through so that the Explorer is matching the new testnet as well.
Okay, and then was there a second ticket that I was supposed to add?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Let's just make sure that's, yeah, you got it up the top. Great. Okay. Is that
And
clear, Leo? Or sorry, go ahead,
Yeah.
Courtney.
so that would be considered, that's a Polkadot.js ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Polkadot apps.
And we can move this metadata v14 to the backlog. Yeah, because we're going to freeze that until we more clearly define the API. Anything with Subspace.js, we can move into the backlog. Okay, clear, Leo?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so just to review, I know you're working on 4 projects. So you've got Polkadot.js apps, Subspace.js, Relayer dashboard, and Polkascan. Sorry, 5, and the farmer. 5 projects. So yeah, you're juggling a lot. So right now, Polkascan is frozen.
Yeah.
The farmer is frozen. Subspace.js is frozen. Relayer is almost done. And then the next step is going to be to focus on getting Polkadot.js apps working. With this, probably after the offsite, we're going to switch into Subspace.js, getting an initial version of that working. And then once we have an initial version of that working, I expect we're going to move into the farmer. And once we have the desktop farmer working, then we're probably going to go back into some sort of a more full-featured block explorer or network explorer using Polkascan or whatever it is that we decide is the best way to do that. That's kind of what I'm thinking for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. Perfect. I got it.
Awesome. Okay, any other questions for Leo or comments from the group regarding front-end apps in general?
I have one in general. We have desktop farmer. At least that's what we call it. But I feel like it's not only farmer. So maybe we can name it something like Subspace desktop. You know, like there is Docker desktop application. Otherwise, it's like slightly confusing that we have Subspace farmer and desktop farmer, which is not Subspace desktop farmer, but Subspace desktop farmer sounds strange. So if we have any plans to add some maybe slightly extra information to that, maybe it would make sense to call it accordingly. I don't know. What do you think?
So you mean like we could run the desktop app just as a node by itself without a farmer?
Potentially, it will have a node inside of it anyway. It's just depending on the mode that it is running in. Like it will be definitely running as the consensus node. Whether the farmer will be running, or maybe you will provide external farmer, or maybe there will be some settings. I don't know. It will depend.
Well, technically, it's not a consensus node unless it has a farmer. Otherwise, it's just a a validator full node. So I guess what you're saying, and I'll just we did not design it that way at all with that intent, but I see your point, and that might make sense to do it that way. So it's the whole UX right now is designed around the farmer workflow, but it might be worth refactoring it so that you could just use it as a desktop way to run the client. I guess maybe I don't know.
I just feel like
there's
naming is slightly strange with Subspace farmer and desktop farmer.
Okay, well, maybe we could rename it to Subspace Desktop. Eventually, it will be extended to include an executor as well. So perhaps, there will be like a farmer mode, an executor mode, or maybe even
That's
just
a
a
good
full
point.
node mode. So yeah, it's probably worth thinking about that, but that's probably a good discussion for the offsite as well. Anything else?
Should we add this in the desktop farmer notion? Like a renaming process or something like that?
Yeah, it's good just to jot that down as a to-do to discuss if we've got a board on that. Yeah, it's a great idea.
She's up next. Backlog.
Courtney, do you have any comments or questions on anything, or any feedback on the UI from like a product point of view?
Of Leo's demo, no, like it looked really good. I'll play, like, I can't play around with it myself, right? Because it's still on your local host. So I'll look at the recording because I'm going to anyway. But for now, nothing specific.
Okay. Any final questions or comments, Leo?
No. For this, no.
Awesome. Okay, great work, Leo. All right, thanks everybody for joining. If you want to stop the recording, Courtney.
1 second.
See you guys next time.